Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Daincast. This time we have another 2v2 game from our friend Kadesh, who is playing the purple Terran pieces in the top middle of this particular map. I'm not on WCS, that's okay. We're just going to cast this one on the default one, and we'll try and keep track with the production tab of what's going on, because let's be real, this is a 2v2. It's hard enough to keep track of anything anyway. And so Kadesh will have a Zerg as his partner, and he'll be against a Protoss player known as Gorder and a blue Terran player known as Strohut. So 2v2, obviously interesting matchup. And Kadesh, actually, I can talk about him a little bit. He is a friend of mine who is currently, he just got promoted to Diamond 1, which is a milestone for him. So that's congratulations on him. We should be seeing somewhere around Diamond 1 level of play in this game from him. So we'll have to see what a Diamond 1 level of play it looks like in a 2 versus 2 game. So let's see what these players are going for right now. Double gas from our red Protoss player. Looks like he'll be doing some kind of one base build. He interestingly does have this pocket expansion, as does his partner. So every player in this game gets a pocket expansion. Jam Days, our teal Zerg, has gone for that, actually. He's gone for a very fast expansion there, which makes sense as a Zerg. He wants to be getting that expansion up as soon as possible. Kadesh, for his choices, has gone for a Reaper expand, it looks like. So he's gone for a gas first, then a barracks, and he's going to be going for a orbital here and probably just plopping down an expansion in his pocket expansion. So definitely a more economic opening here from our Frenchman friend and his Zerg partner. And it's going to be a 3 racks off of 1 base for the blue Terran. So if I were to predict what this is based on it being a good build, this would be 3 racks Reaper, because he's gone for 2 gases. So he'll be pumping out Reapers 3 at a time here and trying to pressure Kadesh as much as possible, which actually can be very difficult to hold when you are going for a Reaper expand, especially if you don't scout it. And I don't think Kadesh has scouted this. He's not going to really know about it. The good thing for him is that it's not proxied. It's all in the main base here. And Stromhad had a little bit of a pylon block there, and he's not actually making an orbital command, so it's definitely not the most optimized build order in the world, but he wants to keep these Reaper production going as much as possible. And there's actually a proxy gateway here and 3 gates, so it's a 4 gate from Gorder, and it's going to be 3 racks Reaper from Strohut. So it's a very aggressive opening from these guys, and Kadesh and his partner are going for 3 bases. So the Zerg has gone for a 3rd hatch, Kadesh has gone for a Reaper expand. He is getting Marines 2 at a time, and he is getting a tech lab on the factory, so he could potentially go for a tank really early. That would hold this really nicely if he manages to get it out. But it's getting that tank out that's going to be the hard part. And the Reapers are actually on the way already. Now, Kadesh does have 4 Marines already. He's gone straight into Marine production. And this is going to mean that he'll have a better chance of holding this. But I don't know if he's going to be able to hold the Protoss units along with it. These Protoss 4 gates can be really, really dangerous if you're not scouting them, especially when combined with a bunch of Reapers. So this is really, really dangerous here. Kadesh does have a good amount of Marines here, but they're not in position. He's pulling them off. I'm not sure why. Maybe he's worried, but the Reapers are a little indecisive here. And with the jump up and the jump down, the anti-micro on those Reapers, he's going to not be able to get any damage done. The hold position on the cliff there is definitely going to be the way to do this. So Strohut is going to seek greener pastures. He's going to try and go and pressure this Zerg with the help of his Protoss ally, but there's already a tank on the way for Kadesh, and he might be able to go and help his friend out if possible, but we'll have to see if this does work for him. So Kadesh doesn't really have any ability to be aggressive right now. He's just on kind of a defensive unit composition here. These stalkers from Gorder are going to go and snipe this Overlord, and the Reapers are trying to get a little bit of damage done. Doesn't look like they've done a whole lot of anything right now. It's just going to be some poking damage. But now that the Reapers and the stalkers are together, this Zerg is in a lot of trouble. And Kadesh is going to send some Marines, but he's going to realize, actually, he can't do anything about it. So immediately, Jam Days just leaves the game. And Kadesh is in a very awkward spot right now. He's got to defend against this 4-gate plus Reaper attack, and he doesn't have a partner. So he's actually just going to pull all of these drones, try and escape here, and try and do something about it. The one thing that Kadesh does have going for him is that Protoss has not expanded yet, and the expansion from the Terran is really late. So actually, Kadesh, if we just count the number of bases, we've got a 2-base Terran against a 2, soon-to-be 3-base Protoss Terran. if you want to think about it that way. So if Kadesh is able to get this mining up and running, he should be in a good position. Straw Hat is sending a follow-up of Marines, but actually Kadesh has 2 tanks here, and there's no way for these players to get up this ramp. This is going to be really frustrating for him. And Kadesh has actually kept his partner's bases alive. I don't know. I guess they just haven't decided to go kill them, but they're going to spend a lot of time going to actually kill this base. Obviously, Kadesh would like to keep it alive for the income, but he doesn't really have the option right now. He's kept all these drones alive in his main, so if the push actually ends up getting held, he should be in a good position, and Kadesh is going up now. He's making so many barracks. He got the leftover resources of his partner as well, because his partner hadn't actually spent anything, so he's going to be able to build all these barracks, and he's going to make as many units as possible. The Protoss is adding more gateways and an expansion, so these gateways aren't really going to be able to be produced from. He does have a Twilight Council, not producing any upgrades on it just yet, but now the Zerg is actually out of the game, so there's nothing Kadesh can really do. He was playing a defensive style. He does have this advantage here of being up a base, so he should be okay, but now both of these players are expanding as well, so Kadesh's upgrade lead here, or his economic, well, not really lead, but he was on par with them for a while, but he's not going to be on par with them for very long. Kadesh is going to sneak these drones out, maybe try and expand to a proxy location. It'll be pretty tricky for him. He does have enough minerals to build a proxy, and this might be what he needs to keep himself in this game economically. Just remains to be seen where he decides to build this base. What's the good spot for them? It could be here. I guess this is going to be the spot. It's not really a likely spot. Here would probably be a safer spot, I guess, but at that point, he's just hoping that he's not going to get scouted. So I guess it makes sense in that way. So Kadesh is currently in a 1 versus 2 situation against 2 players who did very aggressive openers. And this can happen in 2v2 often, especially if you're playing with a random partner. You're not playing with someone who is queued with you, and they leave maybe before they really should. And so this is going to actually throw them off, because they're not going to realize that Kadesh has kept these units alive in this part of the map. And Kadesh is actually going to do a double drop of Marines right now. I think it's pure Marine. Yeah, double drop of Marines. He's got Stim. I think he's got Combat Shields researching. It's not quite done yet, but his Stim should be a fair amount quicker. But actually, his opponent has Stim as well. So not thinking it's going to be too successful of a drop, especially with these missile turrets completely shutting down one of the medevacs here. This is looking a little rough for Kadesh, but he does have the medevac here, and he does have the stim preemptively here, so we'll have to see. It looks like Kadesh is going to get cleaned up here without too much trouble from the Terran player. He is pulling the rest of his units back as well, but as soon as this base gets mining, this is going to be nice for Kadesh, and the good thing for him is that these players aren't really spending their money. They're floating quite a lot. Looks like, as I say that, he queues up a bunch of units and spends all of his money queuing up. Let's ignore the 3 Marauders at a time queued up here. You physically can't do that as Protoss. He's floating 1,000 minerals as well. And there's going to be a big blink into the natural of Kadesh, and he's trying his best to stutter step his Marines to kill these Stalkers. And there's a lot of damage here from Kadesh's Marines, but there's so many Stalkers as well. We'll have to see if he's able to hold this off. He's going to lose quite a few SCVs as well, which is not what he wants to be doing, but I think his opponent is losing a lot of money right now because he's not actually producing any units. So this is not the ideal situation. He wants to be saturating these and fully kicking in that economy. Really, the only chance that Kadesh has here is to get this base up and running, but if it gets destroyed here, this could be really dangerous. These guys are going right here. I don't know if they already knew where that was, but they pretty much walk right to that base, so that's very suspicious behavior. If I was not a betting man, if I was a suspicious person, I probably would be worried about that. I'd probably be thinking to myself, well, how did he just walk his units right to that base? That's a little spooky, but you never know. You never know. Did he actually scout anything? I think he must have sent some units there. And Kadesh is going to move out with a massive tank marine force and try and kill the Protoss opponent. The Protoss has all his units on Kadesh's side of the map, so this push should be going on pretty much uncontested. And if Kadesh can really just end this game right here, if he can just kill this Protoss while he's out of position and hold with his own tanks, he should be in a decent position, but he actually has no tanks left at home. So this is going to be really all in for Kadesh here. He needs to make sure that he doesn't lose this. He needs to be very careful. This Terran is actually trying to take a third base here, and Kadesh is sieging up his tanks in a nice spot here to attack all the units. There's been a recall as well from the Protoss player, and Kadesh is jumping on top of these Stalkers. He's lost a few tanks already, but since it's only Stalkers, this is actually looking pretty good for Kadesh. And now the Terran comes from the other side, not really in sync, but it's going to mean that Kadesh has killed both their armies now with the power of tanks, and he's going to stim and start destroying the production of this Protoss player. So this is going to be a nice win for Kadesh. He's still only on 2 bases, not producing workers anymore, not using those mules, but he's focused on the fight. He wants to make sure that he kills this Protoss as soon as possible. Keeping that tank alive is so crucial. He wants to make sure he continues to produce those crucial units, and now he's actually taking over this base with the remainder of the drones from Jam Days. This is going to give Kadesh yet another opportunity to jump ahead in the economy, and it looks like he has all but killed this Protoss player, so he might be able to even this up and make it a 1 versus 1 against this Terran, and that means that Kadesh has to rely on his TVT game plan. He is spending a lot of time killing this Protoss player, time that is really just spent by this blue player not doing much of anything, and the Protoss is actually going to leave the game, which is going to mean that it's Terran versus Terran here, and Kadesh actually has a really good chance of winning here, because the Terran isn't actually taking another base, and Kadesh is mining now off of this base. As soon as he sends these probes to mine, he's going to be in a great spot, and Kadesh has actually got his tanks shelling the production here of the blue Terran player from the cliff here, so this is obviously a nice position for Kadesh. He could potentially load up these medevacs and start pressuring here as well, but there are tanks here for the blue Terran player, so this is a little bit of a rough situation for Kadesh. I don't think he's going to be able to do all that much damage with this drop, but he's still going to be feeling really good that he's done this drop. He's killed the Protoss completely, and now it's just a 1 versus 1, Terran versus Terran. Kadesh floating a lot of minerals, as is his opponent, so they want to be spending these minerals, making those units back at home. This is the crucial thing, but now Kadesh could send these units to mine, and this would make all the difference. If he can make sure that he's on 3 bases to only 2 of his opponent, he should be in a decent position. The upgrades now for Kadesh, he's got 1-1 against 1-1 of his opponent, so everything is equal pretty much from these players. The supply, 78 supply for the blue Terran player, 88 supply for Kadesh. It's not looking too bad, especially when Kadesh has fewer workers overall, so this is a little rough, but the fact that he's got these workers, if he sends them back to work, it will equalize that economic advantage. Kadesh has left a few workers, a few Marines I should say, back behind, and he's going to clean up the warp gates of the Protoss player, just the last few units, and now blue is looking to move out as well. He's got a pretty scary army. He's got tanks, he's got a medevac, he's got the kind of the army that Kadesh pushed with originally. It's going to come down to tank positioning and stim usage from these players. So blue's looking to take a 3rd base. He didn't actually want to float it out there to a more safe position, so Kadesh is going to want to shut this down if he can, and he's going to want to outmaneuver this Terran player. He's left a few units behind. They're still doing a little bit of work. Kadesh is going to take the opportunity to jump on this tank and maybe take this position up, but the forces from blue are coming in. It looks like he's got a lot more. He's going to be able to clean up this force from Kadesh. This is desperation now from Kadesh. He needs to go home and consolidate his forces. He does not want to lose any more of his army here, and blue might be able to push to end the game right now, but Kadesh has got that tucked away base, and now he's mining. He's still not mining from this base that he's proxied over here. But it's going to be fairly easy for him to not die here if he just makes a single tank. It's going to be very hard to push up this natural expansion here for blue. So Kadesh is actually going for the extended upgrades now. Doesn't have the best upgrades in the world because his opponent is going for double upgrades now. So this is looking very dire for Kadesh. He has evened it up. It is looking good for him. Obviously, it's a tall glass of water. It's a tall order for you to kill 2 players. And Kadesh is trying valiantly to do so, but once you've killed 1 player, you've spent a lot of your resources trying to actually kill the Protoss, and this has meant that the Terran has just macroed up. He's played a little more greedy, and it's going to pay off for him. He's going to have a lot scarier of an army, but he's still going to have to outmaneuver Kadesh because the tanks are still going to be the important units in this matchup. They're really going to determine if the fight is won or lost, and Kadesh has just as many tanks as his opponent, and if he's defending into this, if the opponent just moves into this, this still could be a decent situation for Kadesh. He could still defend, but remember that his opponent is now on 3 mining bases. Yes, he's mining out in his main, but Kadesh still has not sent these units to mine. He's going to want to remember to do this as soon as possible. And his opponent is actually coming up on him, and this is so dangerous. He's sieging up. Kadesh's units are not siege. He's going to siege his tanks maybe a little bit too late, but his opponent is backing off maybe a little bit gun shy here of committing all in. It was very dangerous there for a minute. It was so scary that Kadesh could have lost everything. Now he's going to send this dropout right in view of his opponent, so he's not worried about his opponent knowing. Maybe he wants his opponent to overcommit to a fight where Kadesh is on the offensive here, but this is so dangerous. Stromhat has left a few tanks at home as well. He's got a ring of turrets here. I don't see this drop doing much of anything. Kadesh is going to need to be very careful how he uses this drop. and he does not want to lose it. He is still on the defense here. He is still making tanks, still not mining from that base. So this is not looking good for Kadesh still. It's still looking very rough for him, but I think he knows an angle where he can get damage done. I think he knows there's turrets here. He knows there's tanks here just from the way that the game has gone so far. So he's going to try and go for the soft underbelly of Europe here. He's going to go for the soft underbelly at the natural expansion here, which might actually be a winning play for him. There's nothing to stop this from blue. There's nothing for him to do whatsoever. He's going to have to pull all these units back, and Kadesh might be able to actually get the base for his troubles, which would lead things to be a lot better. So this drop is going to come down. There's a stalemate here at the main base of Kadesh, and now all these units are going to start killing these workers just pretty much for free here. There is going to be a massive pull of units back here, but Kadesh is going to be able to kill all the workers here and force this base down. And if he manages to load up his medevacs, yes, he's going to lead once killing the base. This is beautiful damage from Kadesh. So now he's got, I would say, an economic advantage at this point again, but he needs to send these workers back to mine. And now there's a Viking poke here from Stromhut, and Kadesh doesn't have air superiority. So as long as Stromhut kind of delicately positions his tanks, he should be in a pretty good position. But Kadesh is going to actually load up yet more medevacs to try and get more damage done. Again, this is very dangerous. I guess he figures he can hold off pretty much to infinity here, since his opponent's not going to be able to use the tanks properly. So now Kadesh is looking to do an attack at the natural. He's got 2 medevacs over here, and he's got 2 medevacs over here, but it's really, he's got to be very careful how he uses these. He's going to drop right on top of one of the tanks and stim and kill a second one as well. So this is looking pretty scary overall. His opponent is going to commit into these tanks. This is looking pretty dangerous. Kadesh has stimmed his units as well, but all of his tanks have gone down. So now both players are killing the third base of their opponent. Kadesh is trying desperately to hold off on this, but this is looking very dangerous. Is Kadesh even producing tanks? No, he is not. So he is going to pull all these Marines back and try and clean this up. The tanks from Stromhut not really helping out here, but Kadesh is going to have to pull his workers here. He's not going to be able to hold, I don't think. He's got only a few Marines against tanks and Marines with better upgrades, and now the huge army from Stromhut is coming down. Kadesh still not mining from this base. It's so frustrating for him. It must be to have to do so many things at once, but he is finally going to take those reinforcements, consolidate them, and push this army back out of his base. But his army is looking pretty small right now, 55 to 67, and his base is under attack here. There's not a lot of mining happening for Stromhut. He's rebuilt this base, but he isn't actually mining from very many places. They're both loading a lot of minerals, but Kadesh is going to try and stim on top of these and try and kill them. There are a few Marauders here from Stromhut, which I just think don't do as much damage as they probably need to. I don't think you really want to make too many Marauders in TVT. I think the Marines just do a lot more damage, especially with those upgrades. So Kadesh, somehow, some way, has managed to repel the forces at his main base, and now he gets a chance to get a breather. So now who's got more units? It looks like they're even, actually, on SCVs. Kadesh has 3 orbital commands, and so does his opponent. He's just turning this one into an orbital, and they're both mining off of basically 3 bases. If Kadesh remembers ever to just send these units to mine, he's going to have a pretty big advantage, but it's really going to come down to who's able to spend their money. They're able finally now to make a few units each, so they're going to start stabilizing here, but there's been such a float from both players. Now Kadesh has completely mined out his main, so he's going to float his expansion down to his partner's old third base, and this is going to allow him to start mining once again off of 3 bases. This might be the TSN turning point in this game if he is able to stabilize on 3 mining bases. If his opponent doesn't figure out that he's able to do that, this is going to give Kadesh a huge economic lead. Now he's finally sending these units back to work. He's finally listened to me. And now Kadesh is going to start to kick into high gear here. Now Stromhut is not being counted out either. He's taking a 4th base as well. So he's actually going to equalize things a little bit. But I think Kadesh is starting to pull ahead overall in workers. He's got the 32 workers plus the 15 mining here. So his income is going to shoot up. As long as he can spend this money, which it looks like he is, he's going to be able to produce a very scary army now. Still doesn't have the upgrades he probably would want. Still is on the 2-2. He needs to be having... He's getting his 3-3 on the way. His opponent actually has 3-2, but he's not started his 3-3 yet. He hasn't started his +3 armor just yet, so he's going to be a little bit behind in that regard. So Kadesh is actually, I think, stabilizing in the later stages of this game. Now, does this player know? Does Stromhut know? It looks like he has scouted this base, so he's going to send a small hit squad of units out to attack this. I don't know how long he's had this. He's got actually excellent vision overall. He's going to make a zealot here to go in here as well. So Kadesh is going to have this base go down, but it's not going to be the end of the world for him because he is mining off of this base as well. His opponent doesn't have an orbital here yet, isn't doing a whole lot of mining, and Kadesh is moving out with a big army of mostly Marines, leaving a few tanks at home. But yeah, this is going to spell the end of the space. So Kadesh only got to mine from this for a few precious minutes before he's going to have to lose all of the drones. But this is not the end of the world because Kadesh is, you know, hopefully spending the money that he has, and he's sending out a good amount of Marines to go and attack here. But there is a tank and there is a lot of Marine Marauder here from Straw Hut. So this is still a very dangerous attack from Kadesh. It looks like he's actually going to scan to see what exactly is going on, and he's going to realize that this is not an ideal situation for him. And now he's going to take that drone, send it to an expansion, and build, I guess, another hatchery here and start mining again. But he's got no workers there, but it will just be free supply, I guess. So he wants to keep that going. I think at this point, just build another base of your own, right? You can turn it into a planetary or something. That's probably going to be a little bit easier. Kadesh has a pretty significant army here, and if he's able to gobble this up, this could be nice for him. Sending 3 medevacs here to go and attack this base. This is actually a nice maneuver from Kadesh. I don't know if he actually knows that this is a base, but he realizes it now, and he's going to drop it and clean this up. So this is going to allow him to equalize tit for tat with this base going down. He's going to be able to kill this base as well. I think with 3 medevacs killing this, he's actually able to get almost all, if not, yeah, he's missing 1 mule, but he's able to get almost all of these SCVs, and he's got that base down as well. So now his opponent is really on 2 mining bases, really. One and a half mining bases, whereas Kadesh is still mining now off of 3 bases, really. He's got this base, which is fresh. So if he saturates that with his workers, he should be in really good shape. So now the supply is looking a lot different. So Kadesh is at 155 to the 130 of his opponent. He's cleaned up that base. And now Blue is kind of just in a little corner here, and he doesn't have a lot of plays left. Yeah, he's got a few Marines and Marauders left in the expansion, in the old base of the Zerg player, but this isn't really going to do all that much. If Kadesh gobbles this up, this could actually be a nice little pick off for him. If he stims and kills all of these units, this will be a nice little win for Kadesh to clean that up. Now Kadesh only losing 1 supply there, and now he's got 20 supply more than his opponent. So many turrets going down. Straw Hut going into that turtle mindset, trying to just not die right now, building these turrets, doesn't want to lose to drops, but this is going to be very difficult for him. Now, yeah, he's building 1,000,000 turrets here, but he's actually out of money now. This is what he's choosing to spend the remainder of his resources on. He doesn't have the mining that Kadesh does, so I think at this point it's inevitable that Kadesh is going to be able to win this game if he just maxes out. If he could do whatever he wants now. He's completely got map control away from his opponent, and it's really just up to Kadesh how he wants to play this out. Obviously, if he attacked right now into his opponent, he probably wouldn't win, but since his opponent is building so many defenses, he's going to be able to just build as many bases as he wants. There's nothing really that Blue can do to punish anything that Kadesh is doing. So Kadesh can build 3 starports over here and make battle cruisers. He's making tech labs, so I think that's how he's going to play this out. There's a big move out now from Straw Hut, and this is kind of the last resort from Straw Hut. I think he has to win the game with this push, and with this many tanks from Kadesh, I don't really see this push doing all that much. Now, Straw Hut is moving out. He doesn't know about this base just yet, so if he goes and kills that base, I'll be very suspicious, but it looks like he is just going to be posturing here. Now, what's he going to do? What's he going to go for? Is he going to go for this base? If he goes for this base, I'm going to call him a map hacker. I don't think he is. I think he's looking to kill this base. Oh my god. Does he know? Okay, he doesn't know. He's just checking these bases. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. He's gonna check these bases, but this isn't actually going to matter to Kadesh whatsoever. I think if he went right here, I would have been like, man, he just goes right to the base every time, no matter what side of the map it's on. But he's got pretty decent map vision. At least he did at one point. Look at the spread from Kadesh. He's all over the place. So Straw Hut is going to be trying to push in here. He's only got 2 bases, really. He's got really 1 mining base here. Not even. He's got the equivalent of 1 mining base since he's on 4 patches here and 10 patches here. So he needs to take another base. So I think he's going to try to just end the game with this push right here, right now. This is how he's going to try and win it. He thinks he's got a better army than Kadesh. But I don't know. Kadesh has got his 3/3 upgrades now. He's got a lot of tanks. He's got a lot of production. And he's going to start making battle cruisers and more bases. So Kadesh really taking advantage of the fact that his opponent is stuck. I like this from Kadesh. He's just going to be poking and prodding. But he's taken Marines at every single position on the map. And he knows if he can just defend while keeping his opponent contained to the amount of bases he's got, he should be in pretty good shape. Now, this is the only base, but I think Kadesh keeps flying over this with medevacs, so there's not a whole lot of chance. So Strohut has a pretty big army here, not to be discounted, but Kadesh has tanks. He's got a big army himself. He's got the high ground Anakin. He's got lots of ways to defend against this, and now he's actually going to start building battlecruisers from all of these, and this is a great way to spend your money. Build the most expensive units. Now Kadesh is going to set up maybe a flank here actually to go behind all of this, and there's only one Viking, so this is the air superiority that Strohut has. Now technically he's going to be able to leapfrog these tanks if he chooses, but this is going to become harder and harder for him to do once Kadesh also starts making air units, and he's making battlecruisers now 3 at a time. And so the timing window, there's not really any more mining happening. Now there's another base coming down for Strohut, but Kadesh is just going around him. I think Kadesh knows that with this many tanks, it's going to take way too many resources, way too much time for Strohut to actually deal with this. So Kadesh is going to focus on the counterattack rather than trying to deal with the threat that's in front of him. He's going to rely on the defensive power of tanks, and he's going to instead go right for the enemy. So the enemy does have a tank here, which is going to make it really cost effective for him. But any trades are good for Kadesh right now, especially if he can kill once again these mining bases for his opponent. This is going to force everything back. And now there's only 3 tanks and a Viking left. The Viking's going to get Yamato cannoned out of the game, and Kadesh is just destroying every other hope that this blue player had. The Strohut is pulling back all of his units, but Kadesh is going to stim and get a trade here, and any trade here is good for Kadesh if he kills any units, because these are really the last units that Strohut has left in the game. He's going to try and push it once again, but again, there's battle cruisers for Kadesh, and there's a lot of tanks. No drop play just yet for Strohut. He is just going to be stimming and trying to go on top of this battlecruiser. Battlecruiser is whittling away at these tanks, and the more battlecruisers he has, the harder it's going to be. The blue does not have the money to afford a tech switch right now. He has to rely on the army he's got, and Kadesh is just going to grind him to a pulp at this point. He's added more bases. He's making battlecruisers. He's going to be able to max out here, and there's not going to be able to be a Viking switch here from our Terran player. He still hasn't floated this base out. He needs to make something happen here. I think he still is maybe under the mistaken assumption that he has a way to win this, but I think Kadesh is just going to destroy him at this point. A battlecruiser does go down, and he is going to get finally the trade that he wants. I think he's finally going to be able to push in here with a good amount of units, but this is the last hurrah. So as long as Kadesh consolidates his units and he doesn't lose this tank, he should be in a perfectly fine position to win this game. He's still got units all over the map. He's still producing units. He's still got a tank here. So he just has to play the waiting game. He doesn't even need to worry about this base all that much because he's mining over here. He's got 2 orbitals here, and he could just be taking units all over. He is going to finally take that fight. It's going to be a GG from Strohut and a victory for Kadesh. Nicely played.